Tonight, highway tragedy. 7-year-old twins killed on a trip home to Perth after visiting their grandfather.
Homes spared in a scorching fire emergency in Gwelup, plus the hero who raced to save a stranger's home.
Fed up neighbours lash out at street racing in Seville Grove.
Not over yet. A warning of catastrophic fire conditions tomorrow. Even schools could close.
Oh, so close. A nail-biting near-miss on a WA railway.
And exclusive, the Eagles' young gun dancing his way through injury.
Live from Perth, 7 News with Susannah, Carr and Ardon.
Good evening. A tight-knit family has been torn apart after losing 2 little girls in a highway crash.
The 7-year-old twins were with their mum after visiting their grandfather in Kalgoorlie. They were 3.5 hours into the drive home to Perth when the unthinkable happened.
2 little crosses where 2 little lives ended.
To lose the lives of 2 young 7-year-old girls in the one instant is extremely heartbreaking.
In the dirt on the side of Great Eastern Highway, 2 kilometres from the nearest town of Carrabin. Their Lego and toys scattered next to shattered glass.
The scene of the crash was extremely confronting to members of the public and the emergency responders who attended the scene.
The driver was their mum. This is the tragic end to a family weekend. 7 News understands the girls were visiting their grandfather in Kalgoorlie. They were on their way home when it all went horribly wrong. The police markings on the road show the family car clipped the shoulder, veered across the road and into a tree. It was just after 11 yesterday morning. The girl's mother survived, but only to live a nightmare. Her baby's gone.
All occupants of the vehicle were wearing seatbelts at the time of the crash.
This is the second fatal crash on this stretch of highway in less than 2 months. A truck driver died after colliding with a tree on Christmas Eve. The Shire president says highway upgrades are desperately needed.
There is a lot of potholes throughout the whole stretch of the road. It's our main national highway and it needs a lot of money put onto it.
A road in need of rebuild as a family faces an incredibly difficult road ahead. Lucy Murray, 7 News.
Homes have been saved from a fire emergency in Gwelup that unfolded as we went to air last night. It was started by a bird hitting power lines. You're about to see chilling video of how close the property came to being lost and the stranger who tried to save it.
The fire front's coming, but the wall of flames hasn't reached this house yet. Out of nowhere, an unexpected hero, armed with a garden hose, trying to save a Gwelup home that isn't his.
We didn't even know it was happening until somebody came banging on our door telling us to get out.
Hannah has no idea that there's a Good Samaritan in her backyard. He stays for as long as he can, but the garden hose is no match for the intense inferno headed in his direction. Minutes later, it's at the fence line.
A random stranger said he scaled the wall and took our hose pipe and started sprinkling all our furniture out here.
The speed and ferocity frightening for all those who lived through it and didn't know what they were in for.
I was sleeping and all of a sudden I just heard these choppers right over the ceiling, and I raced out and saw all this smoke and whoa, never seen anything like this up close.
Fire crews threw everything at it, fighting it from on the ground and above. A firefight that started at 5:30 yesterday afternoon and lasted an hour and a half. Their efforts paid off. No homes were lost.
The cause is one you wouldn't expect. There's no foul play. This wasn't arson, it was accidental, sparked when a bird flew into the power lines.
Fire crews were still there today, mopping up and putting out spot fires. A bridge torn down. The fire leaving its mark not only on the bushland but also the people who live here. Rebecca Petroska, 7 News.
Residents in Seville Grove say they're fed up with their street being treated like a raceway.
Some have been cleaned up by speeding cars, while others have come out swinging as they fight to reclaim their neighbourhood.
Sunday in the suburbs. 2 hoons meet in Seville Grove to burn rubber. They They take it in turns to fill the street with smoke. Before fed-up residents chase them off with baseball bats. One takes a swing but misses. Neighbours on Westfield Road don't blame the armed residents. They too are fed up.
You don't know what's going to happen because they could lose control of the car or anything. That's my biggest worry.
Pip Gregory knows how fast things can go wrong. She was cleaned up by a speeding car on the street not long ago.
I was facing that way and then they hit me from behind and I spun around. Fractured my collarbone and my neck and a chip out of my shoulder blade.
She fears it's only a matter of time before someone else is hurt.
So it is pretty scary to see anything could happen to these young kids, anything.
Police say don't do this, leave it to them, urging members of the public not to take matters into their own hands and to always consider personal safety above all else. A residential area, the speed limit along here is supposed to be 50, but it's such a long and straight road with no signs in sight that very few stick to the limit. Residents would like speed bumps installed, but first of all, they hope police catch up with those responsible. James Carmody, 7 News.
Perth has suffered through another scorcher above 40 degrees. Ellenbrook and Bullsbrook were the hottest spots, but the warning for tomorrow is conditions are dangerous. Fire authorities say schools and parks in fire zones could be closed because of more high temperatures mixing with wild winds.
A car flattened in the hills. This is the result of a tree under heat stress. Anne Smithson was just minutes from piling the kids into the car after a birthday party.
The car, the roof was flattened straight onto the passenger seats, so nobody would have survived if they'd been in there. So I am just thanking everyone and everything that nobody was in that car.
Anne is also a botanist. She says the extreme heat is causing trees to drop their branches to survive.
Eucalyptus branches are characteristically weakly attached to the trunk, and that means that in storms or when they are in drought, their branches are very prone to dropping off, and that means that the tree survives really well, but the branches drop suddenly.
Native animals are also suffering. A Redcliffe family found this bird dehydrated and unable to fly.
Oh, watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out.
This pet dog was found inside a hot car at Yokine today. Dangerous as WA became the hottest place on Earth. The top 15 hottest locations in the world in the past 24 hours were all here in WA. It reached 42.3 in Perth, 43.7 at Perth Airport, 45 in the Swan Valley. With air conditioning working overtime, Perth's power consumption hit an all-time high last night between 5 and 6 o'clock, and we're on track to match or even surpass that tonight. Water is also surging in use. The equivalent of 23 Optus stadiums full to the brim have been used this month, 15% more than expected. School kids were kept hydrated and cool indoors.
They're doing a lot of different things to keep us cool. So like we've got a movie in the Great Hall so everyone gets to relax.
The teachers have been going a bit easy on us because, you know, the heat.
Mundaring Christian College is in a bushfire-prone area. A blaze last week cut power to the school and saw the students shelter. Fire officials warning that tomorrow schools in bushfire zones might be closed.
If the fire rating goes up to 75, then that will trigger a preemptive closure of schools.
Chantel Toohey, 7 News.
And Samantha Jolly joins us now.
Sam, it's not just uncomfortable, this weather is dangerous.
And Rick, tomorrow will be our most dangerous day. We heard some pretty strong words from our fire commissioner today. Even though it will be a few degrees cooler for tomorrow, we'll have stronger winds. So we have extreme fire danger ratings for much of the south and east of our state. As we just heard, schools and parks in bushfire-prone areas could be closed tomorrow. It is a large warning area and covers 18 districts from south of Perth to the southeast out to Esperance. Emergency services are also on cyclone watch. Ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln has now crossed into WA as a tropical low. It's forecast to bring heavy rain and is moving west across the Kimberley. The system should move offshore Wednesday, but could then come back into WA as a cyclone later Friday into Saturday. So some extreme conditions right across our state. I'll tell you when we'll get back to more average conditions a bit later in the bulletin.
Thanks, Sam. Heart-stopping video has captured a close call at a WA rail crossing. A freight train came within centimetres of clipping the back of a truck that didn't stop. The train was almost 2 kilometres long. It doesn't get much closer than this, and you can hear the brakes screeching. Horizon says it's spoken with the trucking company after what happened on Saturday on the line between the Goldfields and Esperance.
WA's oldest and perhaps most colourful Member of Parliament has announced he will quit politics. But Attorney-General John Quigley isn't hanging up his boots just yet. Jeff Parry reports.
John Quigley made his name as a gun lawyer for the WA Police Union, notably getting 5 police officers off manslaughter charges for the death of 16-year-old Aboriginal boy John Pat. The union later withdrew his life membership after his parliamentary attack on police involved in the wrongful conviction of Andrew Mallard.
I was very pleased that they were able to cancel my life membership without cancelling my life, Jeffrey.
Today, the colourful MP announced the curtain was coming down on his career. Appointed Attorney-General when Labor won power in 2017, he became the victim's champion, overhauling one-punch laws, family domestic violence, custody notifications, no body, no parole.
There's no more people that are more vulnerable than the victims of crime. So I wanted to bring in laws that protected our community more.
He tightened laws against high-risk criminals, dangerous sex offenders and outlaw motorcycle gangs. He guided the drafting of voluntary assisted dying laws.
His contribution to WA politics as a larger-than-life character will of course be remembered by many.
Along with former Premier Mark McGowan, he butted heads with billionaire Clive Palmer.
A cracker of a night was the night we brought Clive Palmer down.
But he skewed his evidence when Palmer sued for defamation. The judge described him as confused. The opposition called for his resignation. Roger Cook won't have to find a replacement for John Quigley till early next year. Education Minister Tony Booty, the obvious replacement. In the meantime, Mr Quigley says he has a busy year ahead.
2024 is not a victory lap for Quigley.
Jeff Parry, 7 News.
The future of WA's nickel industry is at stake tonight with the outcome of federal cabinet deliberations on a proposed rescue yet to be revealed. But the Prime Minister is hoping another debate is finally over after signing a written pledge to guard the West's GST.
It's not quite written in stone.
If we're going to have a stunt, let's do a good one. Give us your arm.
The Prime Minister today committed WA's fair share to skin.
There you go, that's much more serious.
Seeing the West Australian's front page GST challenge and raising the stakes with the newspaper's reporter. Rejecting claims Stage 3 tax changes have cast doubt on other promises.
But they haven't. This was not an easy decision. It was the right decision, done for the right reasons.
Hoping that's enough to silence East Coast critics and WA's GST doubters. It's not.
We know the Prime Minister has a habit of giving with one hand and taking with the other.
Another WA commodity that needs protecting right now is nickel, and that was top of the Premier's priority list when he arrived here to address the Prime Minister and Federal Cabinet this afternoon. Production tax credits are one option being considered.
You are a driving force for our economy.
Well, I think what the taxpayers would expect of us is to protect Western Australian jobs and to make sure that we continue to have a vibrant critical minerals industry.
We'll make appropriate responses at an appropriate time.
BHP and other miners warning thousands of current and future jobs are on the line, including WA Labor MPs. Jessica Page, 7 News.
The United States looks set to veto a push in the UN for a ceasefire in Gaza, even though it's spent weeks working on a deal to stop the fighting. At the same time, one powerful South American leader has likened what's happening there to the Holocaust.
From Israel's military, video as soldiers search cars outside Gaza's Nasser hospital, some they say used by Hamas militants in the deadly October 7th attack. We found a car belonging to Hamas with grenades inside, he says. According to Palestinian officials, Gaza's largest remaining hospital, chaotic in recent weeks, is now out of service. They say the enclave's death toll is now just under 29,000. The tragedy stirring this from Brazil's president. What's happening in the Gaza Strip to the Palestinian people has no parallel. But then he adds, it occurred when Hitler decided to kill the Jews.
And he's demonized the Jewish state like the most virulent anti-Semite. He should be ashamed of himself.
Israel's government summoned Brazil's ambassador to make clear its anger, while Algeria leads an effort to have the United Nations Security Council demand an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The United States appears set to veto the Algerian push, arguing it might threaten separate ceasefire talks. Israel's Prime Minister is waving off both plans.
We cannot leave a quarter of Hamas's terrorist battalions intact.
Tim Lester, 7 News.
There are reports tonight the body of Putin critic Alexei Navalny has been found with signs of bruising in a hospital morgue in the Arctic. It comes after accusations the Kremlin tried to cover its tracks by concealing his body. Dozens of mourners detained while paying tribute to Navalny have now been sentenced by Russian courts. 154 people were given jail time of up to 14 days for violating strict anti-protest laws.
The sole survivor of Victoria's deadly mushroom lunch has paid tribute to his wife. Pastor Ian Wilkinson fought back tears to mark their 45th wedding anniversary in an emotional sermon at his church.
Back in the church he loves, Pastor Ian Wilkinson leading the service at the Corumburra Baptist Church 6 months after he was left in a coma after eating lunch, allegedly poisoned with death-cap mushrooms that killed his wife Heather and in-laws Don and Gail Patterson. His faith giving him strength.
Let me encourage you to keep on going. The way is sometimes hard, but God is good. He is with us.
The video, obtained exclusively by the Herald Sun, is the first time he's been seen speaking about his recovery after the lunch last July, hosted by his estranged daughter-in-law, Erin Patterson. She has since been charged with 3 counts of murder and 5 of attempted murder.
This has been a pretty big week in my life. Wednesday was the day, the anniversary day of my induction as pastor. Friday was my birthday, turning 70, and yesterday was our 45th wedding anniversary.
A neighbour and friend says his loneliness is hurting.
He struggles there. It's not easy for him to be on his own in the home. We just ask how he is. He just says, I don't want to talk about it, which is fair enough.
It's understood Pastor Ian Wilkinson will now resume duties leading his congregation here every Sunday morning, a significant step returning to the routine he's kept for decades. What do you think the big challenges will be for him this year?
I think it's going to be the court case when she goes to court.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
And still to come on 7 News, slurred words.
MPs facing a booze ban in Canberra. Who overindulged before stepping into a Senate hearing.
Also, one of the world's most iconic tourist attractions was suddenly shut.
A warehouse bursts into flames. What sparked the inferno?
Awards glory, who walked away with a win at the BAFTAs.
And later, how the Bank of Nan and Pop is helping struggling families.
The Prime Minister managed to avoid animal activists who were protesting outside the Perth office where federal cabinet met today. While inside, his Agriculture Minister did meet with some farmers. Both groups are demanding the government reveal the date it plans to phase out live sheep exports.
I know that the Commonwealth are working hard to make sure that there's a smooth transition, and I'll leave it in their hands.
The Pastoralists and Graziers Association declined the Federal Agriculture Minister's invitation to meet. It declared the half an hour he set aside an insult.
There are new calls for random alcohol testing in Parliament House. The Teals claim a heavy drinking culture has been exposed by Barnaby Joyce's street drama and another Nationals MP slurring words during a Senate hearing.
Is it restricted?
Talking Taylor Swift.
I've got the cheapest of cheap tickets at the last minute and my children are extremely happy.
Before arts investment in the regions.
Hello, Mr Collette. Lovely to see you again.
Nationals Deputy Leader Perrin Davey says she had 2 drinks before this Senate hearing, but claims she wasn't drunk.
Having sit in this place now for from when once the arts would come in and it would be this is what we're saying.
She was not drunk. She was fully coherent.
The second Nationals MP appearing to have overindulged in 2 weeks, raising questions about the drinking culture on Capitol Hill.
Barnaby, of course, let's go to you.
Why would you go to me? I've given up 2 things for Lent. One is drinking, the other one's talking about other people.
There is no alcohol in my office. A bit of common sense should apply.
The Teals now calling for random alcohol testing in Parliament.
We still see a trivialisation of alcohol consumption.
Senator Davey is part of the team writing Parliament's tough new alcohol and drugs policy, a policy she'd probably be breaching if it had already kicked in.
It is Australian culture.
Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
2 police officers and a paramedic have been shot dead in Minnesota. They were responding to an armed man who barricaded himself inside a home. At least 7 children were trapped inside when officers resorted to gunfire after hours-long negotiations broke down.
Today, 3 members of our team made the ultimate sacrifice.
The family who was inside the house managed to escape unharmed.
Large black clouds have been seen over southern France after a battery recycling plant caught fire. The facility housed 900 tonnes of lithium batteries, commonly used in mobile phones and electric cars. Authorities say the site is safe despite the potential for toxic gases to be released.
Visitors to the Eiffel Tower will be left disappointed today with the iconic attraction shut. Its workers have walked off the job. They say maintenance on the tower is underfunded and putting tourists at risk. Up to 6 million people visit the monument every year.
Anthony Albanese is under renewed attack on national security.
Triggered by the arrival of dozens of asylum seekers near Broome. Why the opposition claims Border Force is at breaking point.
Cheeky ride, how a dress-up nearly derailed an Olympic dream.
Plus, the Swift storm moves to Sydney.
The rising Australian star turning heads at the BAFTAs.
And how wealthy grandparents are happily helping out young families in our cost of living crisis. That's later.
Last year, Ben won $200 in his work footy tipping comp. Emma did too. And 10 grand before the season even started. Wait, what?
Sign up for the game before the 25th of Feb and you could win 10 grand just for getting in early. And it's totally free to tip.
Bring your tipping comp to the game.
The war of words over the state of our national security is heating up.
39 asylum seekers who arrived near Broome are on Nauru, and tonight the Border Force Commissioner is taking aim at Peter Dutton.
A boatload of arrivals onshore in WA, already offshore again in Nauru. But the debate on border security isn't going away as fast.
Peter Dutton needs to stop acting in such an irresponsible, opportunistic way.
Accusing him of playing into the people smugglers' hands by politicising the arrival of 39 asylum seekers on Friday in remote northwestern Australia, with comments like this.
The reason the boat got there is because the government has suspended or cancelled surveillance flights.
Rebuked by Border Force for suggesting the borders have weakened, today hitting back at the agency he once administered.
The organisation is at breaking point.
Blaming Mr Albanese's government.
They've ripped a cumulative $600 million out of Operation Sovereign Borders.
Complete nonsense once again here from Peter Dutton.
Budget papers showing Labor's funding of border protection is $470 million more than the coalition had promised. The boat might have arrived in northern WA, but the government believes the real target of Peter Dutton's hardball response is elsewhere, the voters in the Dunkley by-election in Victoria in 2 weeks' time. All 39 men are now in offshore detention in Nauru. Mr Albanese insists never to settle in Australia. Monique Dirks, 7 News.
A three-time Olympian who wore a so-called mankini at a fancy dress event has been cleared of any wrongdoing. Equestrian rider Shane Rose has avoided a ban from the Paris Games, despite a complaint over what's now being labelled a bit of horseplay.
Fully dressed and back in the saddle, three-time Olympian Shane Rose cannot believe he's found worldwide fame as the show jumper who showed too much.
That's Australian.
At the Wallaby Hill Equestrian Extravaganza in the fancy dress competition, the larrikin wore nothing but a mankini. He thought his only problem would be saddle sores.
Mankinis, they're not that comfortable, I'll tell you.
He also wore a Duffman beer suit and a gorilla outfit. But someone in the crowd was offended and lodged a complaint. Equestrian Australia launched an investigation.
It's a bit disappointing someone can do this, but we live in a strange world these days.
It sparked a bareback Barney, one board member so incensed with Rose's treatment, he quit.
I've tendered my resignation from the board of EA effective immediately.
And the event itself announced free mankinis to all spectators next year. Made famous by Borat, the mankini has been a fancy dress favourite, even appearing with the Prime Minister.
But as laughable as the incident is, it does have potentially serious implications. Any suspension now could interfere with his qualification advance for the Paris Olympics. But insiders tell us it just won't happen.
Sure enough, within hours of hitting the worldwide headlines, Shane had been cleared.
There was found to be no breach of our code of conduct or his athlete agreement.
An incident that's at least given the sport a little more exposure. Chris Reason, 7 News.
Visitors to K'gari in Queensland are being warned of a heightened risk of dingo attacks. 2 women were bitten over the weekend. It's prompted rangers to step up patrols to find the animals responsible.
With the amount that we've had this time of year is slightly above what we've had in previous years. We're moving into breeding season at the moment, so that will be probably contributing.
Despite the danger, yearly visiting numbers are climbing towards 500,000 people. The island is working to recruit a dozen extra rangers.
Taylor Swift has touched down in Sydney following her record-breaking shows in Melbourne. It was a wet welcome at the airport as the singer dodged cameras to get some rest.
Arriving under a cloud of rain and a shroud of secrecy, the Swift storm has begun.
Any second now!
The fans are never far.
Shake the body, it's good.
But not everyone's on song.
I'm not really a fan.
I'm just here to take photos. We're just here to annoy.
Or not, perhaps.
I just love her music and it brings so much joy.
Swift left Melbourne late morning, express to the airport and a private jet. She wore shorts, a shirt and a Super Bowl cap for the hour flight north. In Sydney, as the singer's army-sized entourage sorted out her luggage, then sorted it some more, the Queen of Pop slipped into Crown.
Is that Taylor?
Staff were saying nothing, ditto for police.
Since I just live around the corner, I was like, why not? It's an opportunity to see her at least, since I didn't get any ticket for the show.
As for Swift, she'll likely see Sydney from the presidential suite, all the way to Olympic Park, where the countdown's begun for Friday's first show, and where organisers are ready for more of this. Huge crowds outside who couldn't get inside.
Melbourne, you're the love of my life. I cannot believe you.
For last night's big southern send-off. Paul Kadak, 7 News.
A hot air balloon has made an unexpected landing on a school soccer field in Melbourne. It appeared to arrive safely on the school grounds. Students tried to help it take off again, but there was a puncture in the balloon.
Well, no Australians won at the BAFTAs.
But one rising star has heads turning. Next, who captured so much attention as another Aussie charmed Prince William?
Also buried in orange, the extraordinary storm making cities disappear.
The valued role grandparents play as families struggle with time and cash.
And coming up in sport, our exclusive chat with Eagles young gun Elijah Hewitt. The latest on his foot injury, plus Warner's warring words for the Kiwi crowd, and LeBron talks retirement at the All-Star game.
Shrinkflation, your favourite grocery products getting smaller and smaller while prices go higher and higher.
Now the new push from shoppers to call out the big brands.
Plus, global business guru Richard Quest, live and exclusive. His cost of living solutions for all Australians. Start with Sunrise.
Now, Fuel Watch. Perth's petrol prices brought to you by Fuel Watch and 7 News.
The Australian share market has finished the day up. The ASX 200 closed 7 points higher. Lend-Lease and BlueScope Steel among those losing ground. QBE shares were up after profits almost doubled. Boral added 27 cents. That was after News 7 Group Holdings made a bid to buy all of the construction materials company. SGH currently owns just over 71% and is offering cash and its own shares to acquire the rest. Shareholders have been told that owning 7 stock will mean they'll start receiving dividends again. Gold is above $2,000 an ounce. Iron ore is at $130 a tonne. $1 Australian dollar is buying 65 US cents and 10,200 Indonesian rupiah.
Box office blockbuster Oppenheimer has stormed the BAFTA Awards in London. It wasn't Australia's night, but one of our stars did manage to charm a prince.
Stepping out solo, the Prince of Wales, without his Kate. So our Kate, acting royalty, politely stepped in to keep the future king company as Britain saluted the silver screen and its beloved stars. With a musical revival too.
I'm heading over for Mardi Gras. I'll be singing on Bondi Beach this time next week.
Margot Robbie missed out on the leading actress gong for Barbie.
Here's the ugly corner here. Hi guys, welcome.
The big winner,
Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer.
Cillian Murphy,
Oppenheimer. The second World War thriller winning 7 BAFTAs. The film industry now in the thick of the awards season. The BAFTAs seen as a good form guide ahead of the Oscars in just 3 weeks. Soaking it all in, Aussie Sophie Wilde from Boy Swallows Universe and Talk to Me, nominated for the BAFTA Rising Star.
When I walked in, I was like, I'm at the BAFTAs. Like, that's insane. Yeah, I feel like it's all been a pinch me moment, really.
Oppenheimer now on track for a big night in Hollywood too. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
Large parts of China have turned orange as sandstorms swept through the Xinjiang region. Visibility was reduced to less than 50 metres in some parts. Cars were banned from driving on local roads. Chinese authorities have issued an orange weather warning, saying the cloud could take days to dissipate.
Forget the bank of mum and dad, it's now the bank of nan and pop. Many grandparents are now financially supporting their young families with everything from home deposits to university degrees. Why our older generations are more than happy to share the wealth. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News.
But first, Ryan has sport. Ryan, it's Derby weeks, sort of?
Yes, sort of. We'll call it the Diet Derby, guys. Pre-season, not quite the real thing, but we are getting close. The latest from the training track next, with good news for a West Coast draftee. Plus, Elijah Hewitt, the Eagles' young gun, on his uplifting approach to life. And back off, David Warner's strong words for the Kiwi crowd. How long will the West Coast Eagles rebuild take? That could depend on the growth of their talented collection of midfielders, led by Elijah Hewitt, Harley Reid and Ruben Ginbey. Tonight, Hewitt reveals his high hopes for the trio and gives us a glimpse of his positive personal approach to a chronic foot injury. Elijah Hewitt dances his way around the footy field. Grace, poise and power.
Elijah Hewitt showing all the tricks in the kit.
Somewhat ironically, he's battling sesamoiditis, an inflammation injury in the ball of the foot, often seen in ballerinas. Elijah, firstly, the foot, how is it going? Are you going to be okay to play footy this season?
Yes, mate, it's going incredibly well. I've just flown back from Melbourne. I went and saw Dr. Sue Mays over there. She specialises in this area of foot and feet. She's a ballerina expert and physio, and she's given me a lot of intel and given me a lot of clarity, mate. So to all the fans and people listening, yeah, I'm very confident I'm on the right track, and I'll be out there very early. I can't put a date in it. It's something that's tricky too, but to have all the right exercises and be on the right track is the best I've felt in 2 years.
You seem to be really positive about it, like you're attacking it with a real positive mentality. Is that just your way?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because when it smacks you in the face about how chronic it is and how hard it is, you kind of got to flip that. And actually, last night I was listening. I went and saw Ant Middleton's seminar, and you hear there's so many challenges you can face, and you can take two approaches to it. And one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. And I actually read a book by Ryan Holiday called Obstacles Away, and I find some of these things that happen to us, it's like you either dive into it and you take on the chin, you amount strength through it. It's like a secret hidden almost gem that no one else can access but you, and it's only through the injury and through pain and through hardships you can actually delve into that and find it. So I've actually kind of taken that perspective on. It's been very liberating, mate.
How old are you?
19.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. Jesus. In 14 games last season, fans got a glimpse of Hewitt's enormous potential. I think the crowd and the Eagles fans just thought, oh, here we go, we've got something. How did you feel when you were in those moments?
Mate, super excited. It's been a lifelong dream to play AFL, and then to play in front of my home state, my home fans, my grandparents were members. It's just been incredible. And yeah, to be a part of something that's growing and developing, and you can feel an energy around this joint. The boys are getting really close. Even just in the last 12 months I've been here, you can just tell the moulding of the group is just beautiful.
Are you already starting to look around and go, okay, this next 10 years, hopefully plus, yourself, Ruben, Harley, just in that sort of midfield group, and going, we could have something pretty special, and how do we complement each other? Are you already looking at that?
Yeah, it's funny. Even before Harley was drafted and you hear rumours, it's just, you start thinking like, you don't want to put super high expectations on it, but you look at Judd, Cousins and Carr, and you kind of just go like, the talent that Harley's got and the work ethic that Ruben's got, and then, we can all complement each other. And I think I'm super grateful to be in this team right now, mate, because I've got these two incredible players and so many other players like Longy and all Ryan Marrick and these other great players. But you can just learn so much of each other. We're going to push each other to become a premiership team one day. And it's a matter of timing.
He's an impressive young man for sure. There was good news for another Eagles youngster on the injury front today, with West Coast receiving the best possible scan result for Clay Hall. Hall will be out for just 3 to 4 weeks after suffering a low-grade ankle injury in Saturday's intra-club match. Meanwhile, defender Jeremy McGovern was on light duties at training this morning after pulling up sore following the match simulation, but remains a chance to face the Dockers in Saturday's pre-season derby. Jack Darling is close to returning from a minor hamstring strain, likely to face Adelaide next weekend. North Melbourne forward Taryn Thomas is bracing for a lengthy suspension over an alleged domestic violence incident. Both the AFL and the club tonight insist the investigation is still ongoing. Thomas remains away from the club. He didn't play until round 12 last year after being stood down by the Roos over his behaviour towards women. David Warner is ready to butt heads with Kiwi fans on his final tour of New Zealand. The full-strength Australian squad received a warm welcome for the T20 series, but it hasn't always been that pleasant for Warner.
Yeah, they got personal, but if they have to get personal, that's their character. If you want to pay your money to come and abuse people, then, you have to go back and lay in your own bed.
And WA has drawn with Tasmania in their Sheffield Shield clash. Cameron Green and Cameron Bancroft both made centuries. With pop star Harry Styles in the house, Manchester United made a white-hot start at Luton Town, courtesy of Rasmus Højlund.
Manchester United's first attack produces a goal inside 40 seconds.
The Dane had a double inside 7 minutes, the Red Devils winning 2-1 to move to within 5 points of the top 4. Aussie Isaac Cooper won gold in the 50 metres backstroke on the final day of swimming's World Championships. It's his first individual gold on the world stage, beating American world record holder Hunter Armstrong by 0.2 seconds. Perth Wildcats superstar Bryce Cotton has just joined Elite Company, claiming his 4th NBL MVP. Andrew Gaze is the only other player to have taken out the league's highest individual honour 4 times.
This is crazy. I
graduated high school without a single scholarship, so to have 4 MVPs in 8 seasons in one of the best leagues in the world, I got to thank God for that.
Cotton went into tonight as the overwhelming favourite after a remarkable season. Before a record-breaking 20th All-Star appearance, LeBron James conceded the end of his NBA career is approaching.
21st season, Candy.
For now, at 39, he'll continue defying age and gravity. The East won the highest-scoring All-Star game, 211 to 186, in a showcase of outrageous talent. But Luka Doncic might leave the party tricks to others in the future. Not a bad effort. Rick Sue, the whole country is being swept up in Taylor Swift mania. Have you noticed?
Oh,
absolutely. Slightly.
Just a few people turning up for a few concerts.
Exactly, just a few 100,000. Now, I noticed the MCG. I saw this great stat today. Taylor Swift, of course, played there 3 times. The Dockers play there just twice this year. The West Coast Eagles just once. Collingwood 14. So Taylor gets more of a look at the MCG than our 2 local footy teams.
And good to see so many West Aussies got to go to the MCG this weekend as opposed to the footy season.
There you go. That's true.
Thanks.
That's right. It's known as the grandparent economy, a new generation of generous baby boomers who've stepped up to help their families.
They now control almost half of Australia's wealth and they're paying it forward, funding everything from home deposits to holidays.
After decades of hard work, Julie and Martin Benders are happily sharing their success with their children and grandchildren.
A very comforting feeling, seeing that what you've got can be shared amongst your family.
The grandparents have financed family holidays, university degrees and helped with a house deposit.
Well, we're probably the first generation that's had good fortune to share in some ways. I mean, we grew up in a time when real estate values went up. We're the first generation to have a superannuation scheme.
It's no longer the bank of mum and dad, it's the bank of nan and pop that is supporting the next generation of Australians.
Baby boomers are the highest net worth generation in Australia's history, owning 48% or $6 trillion of all private wealth.
Now, up to a third of them are stepping up in a big way to help their grandchildren. So it's a new era.
School fees, overseas travel and real estate are the 3 most common expenses grandparents are assisting with. And they're generous with practical help too, providing childcare and free accommodation to offset cost of living pressures.
The Australian economy really is riding on the grandparent economy in our nation right now.
If you know you can help your children, that's a great gift. You benefit as well as the children.
A trend that's set to continue. Rebecca Madden, 7 News.
Sam Jolly's back and dangerous fire conditions tomorrow, Sam.
Yeah, well, Rick, we have another very hot day, but it will also be windy. I'll have all the details right after the break.
Tonight, tribal massacre. More than 50 slaughtered in the PNG Highlands. An expert on what's behind the escalating bloodshed. Plus, the frequent mistakes we're making with our frequent flyer points. Tips for travellers struggling to cash in. When it breaks, we'll have it live on the latest from 7 News at 10:10.
Welcome back. We have just suffered through our 7th day above 40 degrees for this month, and that is a record. We got to 42.3 degrees around 1:30 this afternoon, but last night was unbearable. The low was 27.5 degrees, our hottest night in 10 years. It was still 38 degrees at 7 o'clock last night. Right now it's 34 degrees and the winds are calm. Bullsbrook and Yanchep were our hot spots with 46 today. We had 45 in Ellenbrook and the Swan Valley, 44 at the airport. Mandurah was one of the cooler suburbs with 39 to 40 degrees. The trough causing our heatwave will start to move east. We'll get milder conditions from Wednesday. Ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln has now crossed into WA as a tropical low. It's moving west across the Kimberley. It's forecast to bring heavy rain, flash flooding. It should move offshore on Wednesday, but it could then come back into WA as a cyclone later Friday into Saturday. For the capital cities, showers for Canberra, Sydney and Brisbane tomorrow, 25 in Hobart, cloudy 35 for Adelaide. So very hot and windy right across our state tomorrow. We have extreme fire warnings for a large part of the state, 45 in Ravensthorpe, 47 for parts of the Pilbara and the Gascoyne. And on local waters, variable winds, about 10 knots, becoming northwesterly in the middle of the day, then west to southwesterly in the early afternoon. Seas and swell below 1 metre. So it's staying hot tonight with a low of 24 before a mostly sunny top of 38 degrees tomorrow. Then it finally cools on Wednesday, a top of 30, 33 on Thursday. We are back up to 37 on Friday. And for the weekend, partly cloudy and 33 degrees for both Saturday and Sunday, and 34 next Monday. Tickets now on sale in the MSWA Mega Home Lottery. The grand prize is a $3.1 million Marmion home plus $500,000 cash. You can get them at mswalottery.com.au and support West Aussies living with neurological conditions. Now for tonight's winning lotto numbers, they are 11, 34, 3, 22, 26 and the supplementaries are 17 and 42. Those numbers are 11, 34, 3, 22, 26 and the supplementary numbers are 17 and 42. Sue and Rick.
Thanks, Sam, and that's 7 News for this Monday. We'll keep you up to date throughout the evening.
For the latest stories, head to 7news.com.au. Enjoy the rest of your night here on 7.